Do low-calorie wines taste as good as regular wines? We're going to jump into that topic today in our video, so please stick around. But before we do that, please take a second to hit that like button on the video and subscribe right now before you forget, so you can stay tuned to our future videos. Hi, I'm Tim from Elma Wine and Liquor. Today I am going to jump into the topic of low-calorie wines and whether or not they taste as good as regular wines. In order to understand whether or not they taste as good, I kind of want to run through a few examples of these low-calorie wines and how they become low-calorie so that you understand the process of what is happening and what you're getting when you buy one of these versus a regular wine, and then we can make a decision. So one of the key ways that a lot of wines become low calorie is by getting rid of some of the alcohol. Unfortunately, alcohol has calories. So if you remove some of the alcohol, you remove some of the calories. So starting out, we have this Yellowtail Pure Bright. So they have a whole line of wines called the Pure Bright, which are the lower calorie. You'll see they throw it right on the front. 85 calories per serving. They do define what a serving is. I can't read it right now. It's pretty small, but it is a typical glass of wine. It's not like some low-calorie snacks out there that are low-calorie because they only give you one little peanut or something. This is a typical glass of wine is what they're considering a serving. So with the Pure Bright, they are removing some of the alcohol. When a wine is fermenting, the yeast eats the sugar and produces alcohol. So alcohol starts as sugar. It's a combination of yeast and sugar. So sugar has calories. That yeast eats the sugar, turns it into alcohol. It's still calories for our body. What Yellowtail does is they start by picking the grapes early. So they pick the grapes before they're fully ripened because that fully ripened grape has more sugar. So when they press the grapes into liquid and then mix in the yeast, there's less sugar to start with. So therefore, there's going to be less alcohol produced in that particular grape. What they then do to further remove some alcohol is a reverse osmosis process. So they pump the wine through a semi-permeable screen that the water and alcohol cannot get through. So they end up with more of like a pure wine concentrate, and then they rebalance that by adding back in some of the alcohol to it. So it's a kind of a mixture of picking the grapes early and then also doing this reverse osmosis process to make sure that the overall alcohol content isn't too high. This one comes in at 9.6% alcohol, whereas typical wines are somewhere in the 11 on the low end to 15-16% on the high end, averaging in those 12-13% typically. So less alcohol, less calories. They go through quite a process to make it that way, which is surprising that it's still pretty affordable on the shelf. Next up, we have Mind and Body. This is their Cabernet. They say 90 calories per serving, and they use a little bit of a different process to remove some of the alcohol on this one. This one gets down to 9% alcohol. What they are doing is using a spinning cone technology. So they have 40 spinning cones that are like a centrifuge, which pulls the alcohol out of the wine to some extent. Not all of it, obviously. There's still 9% in here. So you're still getting a glass of wine that's got some alcohol, but doesn't have too much so that the calories are reduced down to 90. Moving on to Fit Vine Cabernet. And these what I'm telling you about these wines, I'm using a particular varietal as an example right now, but generally the process they're using applies to their whole line of wines. So if you see a Pure Bright Sauvignon Blanc or Pinot Grigio, or if you see a Mind and Body Chardonnay, they're all going to be whatever that process is for that brand. Fitvine. This one's been around for a bit. They call themselves Zero Sugar Wine. They also put gluten-free and full flavor right on the bottle. And they call themselves full flavor because this is 13.5% alcohol. But Tim, you said they have to remove the alcohol to make it low calorie. I sure did. This isn't super low calorie. It's just zero sugar. This one is coming in at 121 calories per serving, which is a little bit less than maybe a typical Cabernet, but not a lot less. Their big thing is the zero sugar element. So remember earlier I said the way we make alcohol is the yeast eats the sugar. So if the yeast eats all of the sugar to produce the wine, then there is zero sugar left in the bottle. The drier the wine, the lower the sugar content. The sweeter the wine, typically there's a lot more sugar left in that. You'll find with varietals such as Moscato or sweet Rieslings, that the alcohol content will sometimes be pretty low. Sometimes with Moscatos it's down in the 5, 6, 7% range, and that's because the yeast is not eating all of the sugar. So there's a lot of sugar left in that bottle, which is also calories as well. Alcohol, sugar, both calories. But with the Fitvines, what they're doing is just fermenting it down to the point where there is no residual sugar left in that bottle, so they can label it as zero sugar, which is healthy, but it is a more normal alcohol content for a typical wine, which, as they say, full flavor. You're not stripping anything out of that wine to make the balance off. A couple other brands out there, Matua, Chloe, are both also making these lower calorie, lighter wines. These are both 80 calories a serving. They use a similar initial process as Yellowtail, whereby they are picking the grapes at a much earlier stage of ripeness so that there is less sugar for the yeast to eat. They do not use the reverse osmosis technique afterwards. They are just using the fact that the grapes are lower sugar content and thereby creating less alcohol to make their wines a little bit lighter and less alcohol. This one's 9%. And I can't read that one, but these are both lower alcohol, lower calorie, that crisp kind of style that is a little bit different than the Fitvine's claim of full body because they leave all the alcohol in it. Lifevine is another one, big zero sugar on the label, right there under the brand. They're again very similar to Fitvine. Lifevine, Fitvine, they do the fermentation down to zero sugar to make sure that there is no sugar left in the wine, but they still leave the alcohol content at more of a normal level. This one is 13.7%. So you're still going to get that full, rich mouthfeel like a typical glass of wine that you would expect, but without any sugar. And that is kind of the case for any very dry wine that you will find. Essentially what they're doing is distilling out all the sugar. This is a newer trend of actually labeling it zero sugar because they know that consumers want that. But if you do go into a liquor store and ask people for the driest wine that they have, those will typically also be zero sugar. More and more wineries, winemakers, wine companies are putting that information on their websites as well. So even though it might not be on the labels yet, if you go look them up online, sometimes they will say, 0% sugar left or 0.01 or whatever the case may be. The drier the wine, the less sugar that you're going to get. But you might end up with more alcohol, which means that the calories are not going to be different. It's just not sugar instead of alcohol. So Lifevine and Fitvine both use the process of just making sure that yeast eats every last grain of sugar to produce the alcohol that you would typically expect in the wine. Chloe Matua, just picking the grapes earlier so that they are producing less sugar. Less sugar for the yeast to eat means lower alcohol, which means less calories. Mind and Body is using a centrifuge process to remove the alcohol after they've made the wine. And Yellowtail is doing that combination of picking the grapes early and then also using a reverse osmosis to get rid of some of the alcohol. So as you can see, winemakers are going to great lengths to make wine that's healthier for you, that consumers might enjoy if they're on a health kick and trying to reduce their overall calories. But when it comes down to it, it's really every individual's choice of what's going to taste better or worse. There are some people out there that say that the lower calorie wines or the lower sugar, lower alcohol wines have a thinner mouthfeel, that are a little bit lighter. They're not what they would typically expect, and they may not enjoy them as much. There are other people that enjoy them even more because they like that style of wine and they feel good about the fact that it's less calories per glass and less alcohol per glass. So maybe you have an extra glass. That's kind of a take on the different processes that are making these low calorie, low alcohol, sugar-free wines. I'd really love to hear in the comments which brands you've tried, what you like, what you don't like about them. I know there's a lot more brands out there, and there will continue to be even more brands out there. So let us know what you think. Let us know what you've had. Let us know what else you want to know about these wines and whether or not they are the right fit for you. Please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with a friend to get the discussion going in the comments below. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for watching. Cheers.